A story we're following here in the UK, and the Prime Minister's hosted the first cabinet meeting at Downing Street since the summer break. His team arrived after Keir Starmer made some big changes to his team of advisers behind the scenes in the last 24 hours. While the Labour government's under pressure over the issue of immigration and the use of hotels to house asylum seekers as they wait for a decision on whether they can remain in the UK. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of foreign students are being contacted by the government, and they're being told that they'll be sent home if they overstay their visas. All of this as part of a shake-up of immigration policy. Well, speaking ahead of that cabinet meeting, the British Home Secretary Yvette Cooper explained why the government wanted to, I quote, clamp down on the issue.
We did inherit a system that was broken, really, on both asylum and immigration. We're taking a series of practical steps to tackle the chaos and to make sure that we've got a system that is ordered and controlled again. On this particular issue, what we've seen is up to 15,000 students each year end up claiming asylum as they come to the end of their visa, even when things haven't changed in their home country. Then going into the asylum system, sometimes staying there for years, that also causes problems with asylum accommodation and hotels. That's what we need to fix.
British Home Secretary Yvette Cooper there. Well, to get more on those cabinet meetings and the reset that the British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer wants to bring in, I've been speaking to our political correspondent Ian Watson.
At the moment, the Labour Party is behind in the opinion polls, quite dramatically behind Reform UK. They've been seen to have not exactly an ideal summer. They seem to be on the back foot. And from the Prime Minister's point of view, he's talked about, on a BBC interview only yesterday, about his frustration. He said it wasn't anger, but it was frustration about the pace of change and the need for more delivery to deliver the change that people thought they were voting for at the last general election. And the kind of people who can make that work are often the people aren't necessarily household names, but the people behind that black door, people behind the scenes. Now, this isn't the first time, of course, he's tried to reset his operation in Downing Street. We had the very spectacular last autumn departure of Sue Gray, who was his chief of staff. We also had a former director of communications, Matthew Doyle. He left in the spring, and now what we were seeing are a range of different appointments. I think the most spectacular is, of course, this new post of Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, something that never existed before, something which is going to be in the hands of a politician, Darren Jones, who is Chief Secretary to the Treasury. He's moving from number 11 to number 10 Downing Street. His job is to crack heads together and to make sure departments are working together to deliver the government's pledges. And they're trying to narrow their focus a bit as well, and saying that their key priorities are now fixing the NHS, getting living standards up, and securing the UK's borders. So he has that role. But interestingly enough, his current Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, seen as the kind of mastermind behind the general election victory, will not, we understand it, be reporting to Darren Jones. So you may well have some different, shall we say, power dynamics going on in number 10. And that was a criticism of their communications team as well. They previously had two people as directors of communications. One's meant to be doing strategy, one's doing day-to-day work. Did that really work? Well, one of them has gone, so perhaps not. And there's now going to be a new executive director of communications, a guy called Tim Allen, who's actually a top advisor to Tony Blair when he was in government. So he should know his way around Downing Street, even though it's been quite some time since he was there. So they're trying to improve all that. The other big change is actually the Prime Minister having his own economic advisor. Lots of speculation at Westminster as to whether this is undermining Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, or whether it's just helping the Treasury and Downing Street work more closely together. But this is a Baroness Shafik, who is very distinguished, former Deputy Governor of the Bank of England, worked for the IMF. So there is at least, I think, some credence to the idea that the Prime Minister might be wanting to get his own independent economic advice ahead of what will be a very challenging budget later this autumn.